This is AEC Insider, the videocast where we talk to the people building the future of architecture, engineering, and construction. From talent and technology to strategy and sustainability, we go inside the stories shaping the built world.
Welcome to AEC Insider by Upstart 13. We are joined here today with Sacchi Patel from ANS Geo, and I'll let him introduce himself. How you doing, Sacchi?
I'm doing great. I'm Sacchi. I'm Chief People Officer over here at ANS Geo. I'm super excited to talk today and give you a quick background of ANS Geo. Before you ask me, would be we're a geotechnical land development construction firm in the renewable energy space. We have about 130 employees, and we're in several offices across the country. So super excited to talk today.
And where are you based out of specifically, Sacchi?
So I am in our New Jersey office. We have about 35 people there, and then we have other big offices in Columbus, Ohio, Austin, Texas, and then several more, but I spend most of my time at our New Jersey office.
Awesome. Jersey. But you're
Yeah,
not from Jersey originally, are you?
I actually am. I spent my childhood and early schooling in New Jersey and New York, and then I moved out to California for probably about 13 years, and somehow found my way back to the motherland now.
Awesome. So for those of you who are going to look up Sacchi, Sacchi had a really cool run in the tech world. And a while ago, he came over to the engineering industry to serve as CPO, Chief People Officer over at ANS. How's it been for you? What are I just let's just jump right into it, Saji.
Sure.
What are the challenges in this industry that you might have not found in tech, or I'd love to know how you've been feeling working, having a bird's eye view of both.
First off, it's been great, and I think you summed it up perfectly. There have been a ton of challenges, and to be honest, that's what's been keeping me going. That's the part that's been exciting. Yes, most of those challenges are very different from what we saw in the tech world and mostly big Silicon Valley companies or even cool nimble AI firms. I'd say the biggest challenges that we're running into that some of them were expected and most of them were unexpected surprises are clearly an intense competition landscape. I think to find technical talent here, when we're talking about actual engineers, that's the toughest thing. There's big skill gaps in the industry, whether it's education or actual experience in the field. We're seeing those challenges pretty often. And then, of course, balancing that like competitive landscape with compensation, with project budgets, making sure we're still a profitable company. Those are some of the fun challenges so far. And then, of course, as we take that, you know, a scale back from just recruitment, on the people ops side, we care about company culture. And so we have to blend that technical acumen and bringing in the right technical folks with the folks who are going to be what we like to use is not a culture fit, but a culture add. Who's going to be able to add to our culture and continue to take us in the right directions? Those are the fun challenges so far.
There's a lot of comparison to the tech world, So the tech world also has a real hard time hiring, software engineers, and
Sure.
it's tough to find engineers at any scope, right? Civil, geotech, and I'm wondering, how you guys do it? What's the approach to hiring these days, and how's it different to tech? How are firms dealing with this model?
I mean, I agree completely. Those are all the challenges and more. And I think the way we're approaching it overall is leading with that culture piece, like I mentioned. I mean, what makes us different from other geotech firms or other folks doing civil engineering is how much fun we can bring to the work. There's a component to a lot of our jobs that require field work and a lot of travel. Sometimes 50% of the time, someone's traveling to different project sites.
Wow.
They're literally working in the field. What we do is soil testing. We're able to go out for our clients and tell them what the land looks like on the surface level and what's underneath it. And that should be hopefully exciting to the people that we bring in because that's their discipline and background. But that's not going to take them the whole way. So our approach is to be culture forward, is to bring that out. So what makes ANSGO special? And we try to bring that out in our recruitment process. That's like by moving to non-traditional recruitment methods. more personalization, and then implementing all the innovation that we do behind the scenes and bringing it up to, again, the recruitment process, to the courtship, to how we get offers out, to our speed. Those are the things that make us different. And so far, it's our approach to meeting those challenges that we're seeing in the industry.
I can tell why they brought over a tech guy into the industry with all this innovation. It's I'm happy to hear that you guys have been doing this, you know. So what we hear
Thanks.
here over at ACE Insider is that, often firms, have a hard time sourcing the talent. Let's just say you're trying to hire, typical mid-level engineer. So it's hard to find him or them. And once you do find them, they stick around for 1 or 2 years. But you want tenured engineers, right? More than any other
That's exactly.
industry,
That's right.
having technically capable and experienced engineers is really important because you're not building an app that you can ship in 2 weeks of coding, right?
That's right.
You're doing really tough work, which needs time. And so I'm wondering, I mean, you mentioned the culture, and every single person that I've talked to over at ANS has wonderful things to say about the company. So to our listeners, this is not some, corporate mishmash or
Mhm.
marketing. This is true, but I'm curious as, all right, so you guys had a really fast hiring process. It was great.
Mhm.
The person felt respected, happy to join. Day one, what are we doing to keep that person engaged within the organization?
The first thing is we don't even look at day one. So in my opinion, whether it's my tech bias or being innovation forward, everything is too slow. And so one of the things that we bring into all of our strategies is to go faster. If you're used to an old corporate culture, and let's be honest, in a field like civil engineering, things can be very antiquated. We can go old school in a place where things haven't really developed. What folks are used to is a really long process. If you have a new idea, okay, that's Q1, and that takes 3 months. Think about it. Q2, research it and talk it through. Wait till Q3 to start implementing a pilot program. Q4, roll out something to a few people. Q1 of next year, let's start implementing to a bigger. And so an idea will take 2 years to roll out at most companies, no matter what size, if we allow ourselves to be, bound by those old school strategies. So everything we do is faster and quicker. And so, with that mentality, to answer your question directly, we think way before day one for a candidate. So, when you sign the offer, we think, okay, day -7 up to their start date. Okay, at -7, we need to send them onboarding paperwork. We don't need to delay. At 6 days before hire, we're making sure that all their forms are filled out right and their employment information is filled out. 5 days before, we're making sure that their benefit elections are actually done. They're actually looking at this stuff. So
Yeah.
all that makes it way more easier for us to have the systems that we have. We're not spending a ton of money on platforms and payroll systems and HRIS tools. All of that stuff is great, and we're not opposed to it. But what's beautiful about ANS Geo is that we've done things in a really scrappy way when the company was 4 people and 6 people and 10 people, and now
Yeah.
that we're 130, 150, and moving forward, we're still doing those things. We've just gotten better at how to administer it. So we're making sure that we have a seamless process with our systems. The candidate's not going to feel any of that pain. By day one, they're already set up in the payroll system. They don't have to be finicking with any last minute employment, paperwork, get bogged down by that. They don't have to stress about their benefits. They're enrolled. They understand it. We've spoken to them. So that by day one, we jump into probably our bread and butter, our secret sauce, which is one of the most customized trainings that I've seen for technical staff. On
Wow.
day one, they get a skills assessment. It's not a test, it's to figure out how comfortable are you with these technologies, with these methodologies, and just with these concepts. Because it's particularly important for us, especially for our field engineers, that we know that they're not just comfortable and knowledgeable, but they're going to be safe before we send them out in the field. So from day one on to day two, three, 7, we come up with a very customized solution for their onboarding and training so that we're making sure that they're in the field set up for success. And so that's how we start things, especially on the technical side of technical side of the world.
If you start things well, it just gives you the right path forward to keep things going well.
Sure.
That makes sense. I mean, we've all in our careers been part of, good processes, onboarding process and terrible onboarding process. And
Hmm.
it just makes a whole lot of difference when you're welcomed, right? And
Right.
it's like when you welcome people into your homes, like I don't want to, if I call someone over for dinner, I don't want them to show up and be like, "Hey, do you want pizza?" Like I want to cook them something, right? And I
That's
feel like
right.
it's the same way. So, friends have historically struggled with employee engagement. And I love how you guys are dealing with, day -7. Do you guys have any creative things for culture and retention? Maybe for the people that are going to be on board for a few years. I mean, if I'm interviewing to come on to ANS, what do we do in holiday time? What are we doing during the summer? I'd love to hear from you about that.
Great question here, and I think this is something that was really well thought out and was created before I got here, but it was just a nice, pleasant surprise that I didn't need to, you know, like techify the whole company with all
Yeah,
these things that I think work, because they've
yeah.
been already doing that. We have unlimited paid time off, right? And so that's
Oh,
very innovative. It's
amazing.
important for a lot of people in a lot of industries, but I mean, you're a field engineer, and again, you're potentially traveling half of your time, and you're doing some physical labor to get us the soil to test. That's sometimes pretty grueling for folks, right? And so we don't want to lose sight that, and you mentioned this before, maybe that there isn't going to be a long shelf life on that type of job and how long you can be out in the field. So we do really want to take care of people while they're here in the immediate term with things like unlimited paid time off. And when you do come back from the field, we're trying to be very intentional about making sure that you get rest, you get some time off to compensate you
Amazing.
for all that time you were in the field away from your families. We do some innovative things like we offer a little extra pay for people who have to end up working or traveling on the weekends. Um, yeah, just to make sure that we're at least giving you a hat tip to let you know, like, we really appreciate what you're doing. We couldn't be doing what we're doing without that.
Let me buy
Um,
you a drink at the end of the day, right?
that's right.
That's
At least it's
yeah,
an
of course,
extra mile that you're going.
for
And then, of
sure.
course, like you mentioned, so we do want to be really mindful that a couple of years in, maybe there's some folks who just want to keep doing this, and that's amazing. And but for the folks who don't want to just be out in the field, we're trying to be really intentional about having meaningful, not just mentorship programs, but ways to get into like technical project management, to get exposure to all sides of our business so that they can start reducing the time in the field. They can start training up new field staff and become a leader in those ways. And then it shapes paths to all different sorts of career pathways. We haven't defined it all yet because it's a huge work in progress, right?
You just got there too, right, Sachi?
I appreciate
Yeah,
the leniency here,
yeah, of
but the
course.
but the retention matters a lot, right? And then I'm sure we can go into it, but we're really beefing up our strategies around what a traditional like learning and development department looks like at other companies. But I'll pause there for now until we want to kind of do a deeper
Yeah, we,
dive.
we we can do a second episode.
There,
Yeah,
exactly.
for sure. So one of the things they came out with a study a couple of months ago that really surprised me. It says that 40% of professionals in the engineering field will retire by 2030. And so with all of the people in the US, studying, learning new things, I guess my first question is, why do you think people aren't, really going into the civil engineering field anymore because it's a numbers game. If there aren't enough people to hire, it means that people aren't studying. And what can we do to bridge that skill gap going forward? Because contrary to tech, as much as AI is taking over all sorts of fields and just making better tools, there are still some things that you need an engineer on site. So as a heavy AI user, I still think that engineering is AI proof. going forward? I'd love to hear your opinion on it.
That's a great question because that's where my biggest bias is having worked in the AI realm and made a lot, like made my money out of AI. I'm all in on artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
And I've worked at companies where we've utilized AI in construction use cases. Now, all of that said, I couldn't agree with you more. There's absolutely always going to be a place for the grassroots knowledge that you acquire from a civil engineering, geotechnical, geology sorts of disciplines and bring it out into the field. I mean, at the essence of our work, like we mentioned, we can be using drones and satellite images and things like that I've used in the past at other companies, and that's going to help you get some insight. And but the whole point of using that is to make your other work more efficient or to give you an extra layer of knowledge that maybe you can't physically see. At the end of the day, we still need to go and collect soil from these fields in specific areas. We still need knowledgeable experts and humans to go out and figure out what are the variables that AI can't see and detect. And um, that's always going to be the case. And then we still need that same knowledge to be consistent from collecting that soil sample, testing it, which we do in house across several labs that we have in house. Um, and then that same person and those same people need to have context of what that work looked like, what drilling looked like, what digging looked like, and the soil collection. And that knowledge needs to go into our reports. And there's no AI that can be able to seamlessly figure out from start to finish what that experience was and where, what we owe our clients is that report to let them know what we found
Yeah. You
beneath the
can build
soil.
here or you can't, right?
That's
At
right.
the
And
end of
then
the
what
day, that's what you
materials you
want to
can
tell them.
use. Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And so we'll always need that level of consistency and expertise across. Now, what I do want to make very clear is through our learning. So we've created a learning development and innovation department. It's not just an L&D. It's
Yeah.
innovation is part of it. We've created a moonshot lab as part of it. The whole point is to embrace AI and technology in the field, but there's no way that's going to erase the people that we have on our team. It's going to only enhance the work that we mentioned. So, so hopefully I'm putting my money where my mouth is by saying that there's a place for all of this to live in complete harmony and to make our business better and to make our people better and then actually to create more jobs as we have this moonshot lab to bring out the wildest ideas that maybe we've never thought of before. That creates more job opportunities and new business verticals for us in the future.
It's amazing to hear. And I think hats off to whoever hired you over at ANS because a lot of the problems that AEC
Hmm.
faces, and I get this from all sorts of architecture and engineering firms that I talk to on a daily basis. A lot of the problems come from not having an innovative mind like most tech companies do to make things work. But at the same time, one of the pros of civil engineering and AEC
Hmm.
is that they're not taking dumb risks
Hmm.
because they're building big things that need a lot of responsibility, contrary to a lot of tech companies, which is just an app. If you don't like it, you delete it. And so I love to hear that. I'd mentioned about 40% of AC professionals will retire by 2030, as we had said. And we talked about AI a little bit. How do we bridge this talent gap since AI isn't going to take over, the positions that we can't fill? Uh, how do you think we encourage younger generations to get into the engineering industry?
It's an exciting problem to have, as scary as it is, right?
Yeah,
And I agree with you. I mean, the surveys, we can put a lot of clout in the surveys or not. We should take it seriously though. So
yeah,
the way we would bridge a gap, in my opinion, for people retiring at mass amounts and not potentially studying up, I think we start creating really robust internship programs. That's an immediate key. We do things that are less traditional than just a career fair and start making meaningful partnerships with college institutions that teach these sorts of engineering skills. And then something I bring from the tech world, at Silicon Valley, we had such a, contrary to popular belief, it wasn't the easiest to hire at these tech companies. And we did have Ivy League schools right down the street and feeders into there, but it wasn't always the easiest. Now, all that said, I was definitely the one who always thought on the recruitment side, the Ivy Leagues are great and those programs are great, but why aren't we looking at non-traditional programs? Why aren't we looking at, community college grads who then taught themselves how to code, who could be more than likely more brilliant than someone who came from Stanford and Harvard. And that's not to put anyone down. That's to say we have blinders on to these different pools of people that have incredible value, and maybe the opportunity wasn't there for them to reach a certain Ivy League, but their skill set could be better than most, if not comparable. So that's what I think we continue to do in the construction field too, is to look at those non-traditional pathways. I think we, take some onus on myself here is with these like learning development innovation departments and moonshot labs that we're creating, we should be really intentional on creating internal growth pathways. I think that's a great way to do it outside of just partnering with those educational institutions. And then good mentorship programs. Once we get some people in the door, if we have experts and maybe they'll retire in a few years, they should be teaching as much knowledge as they can to the rest of our younger or more green staff. So we focus on the knowledge transfer from retiring professionals.
I love that. I love that. We can't lose the experience of these retiring professionals because, as we said earlier, you need experienced engineers in the field, but people need to retire. So we can't work forever. So
that's right.
I love
can
to
retire,
hear
but
your
let's not use.
perspective.
Let them retire, but don't lose that knowledge that they have. So we better get that from them pretty quickly.
For sure. For sure. And my final thought here, to wrap up this episode, if you could give one piece of advice to, people leaders, maybe it's not they don't have the same title, chief people officer, but maybe head of people, head of HR, regardless of how that specific company titles your role, what would be the advice that you would give to build a stronger workforce?
I think the advice that I would give to other people leaders, or really anyone who's blazing a trail to bring the next generation of talent to the AEC world, would be invest in your people's growth beyond technical skills. Create an environment where innovation thrives and career progression is crystal clear. At ANS Geo, we've seen this huge, tremendous success by creating that culture, a culture that balances technical excellence and personal development. And then that's how we've seen our 1,700% growth. And the future belongs to organizations that can adapt to culture while maintaining their technical edge. So you don't have to lose either, but I think that's the advice I would be able to give.
Amazing. Thank you, Sacchi, for coming over.
Thanks.
We will list ANS Geo link here, and also Sacchi's LinkedIn page, so you guys can connect. He's just a great guy, really easy to talk to. So thank you so much for listening. Sacchi, thank you for joining us.
It's nice chatting with you as always. I really appreciate you having me.
All right. See you guys.